Tonight on the Local Live, Mamaroneck Village residents will see a 2% increase in water rates. The fire department promoted safety at Harbor Island Park, and the community got spooky this past weekend as Halloween approaches. And on tonight's roundtable, Congressman Eliot Engel will be here live. Good evening, it's Thursday, October 25th. I'm Tanisha Blanche and welcome to the Local Live. Westchester Joint Waterworks customers in Mamaroneck Village will see a 2% rate increase. The Village Board of Trustees voted for the higher rates on Monday night, which will take effect the next billing cycle. The Mamaroneck School Board held a community forum at Homix Middle School on Tuesday to further explain the capital bond referendum. One recent change is the reduced cost of installing central air in all instructional spaces at the District 6 schools, a decrease of $12 million to now $48 million. A significant amount of money will go towards electrical upgrades needed in most of the school's buildings.
The maintenance costs for having central air conditioning in all of our buildings would require at least another 2 maintenance mechanics. It would require increased utility cost. So the annual cost that would not be part of the bond, but would be significant. We don't know exactly what they would be, but they would certainly be, at least about $500,000 a year.
When you start to look at the project list, there are really 3 areas of focus for this bond. I would say that it's site work, it's building envelope, and mechanical systems. So we've tried to at least summarize, and Mike will speak to some of the major components within the 3 areas, to give a sense that we're really talking here about mechanical systems, we're talking about the envelope of the building, and certainly a considerable amount of site work that is in all of our buildings, in all parts of our schools.
The Mamaroneck School Board has pushed back their vote on a bond resolution to November 27th. More informational meetings will follow with the community voting in February 2019. Remember, you can watch all the meetings that LMC TV covers by visiting lmctv.org/videos. Larchmont is currently replacing sidewalks throughout the village. The first phase from Village Hall on Boston Post Road to the corner of Manor Lane is complete. Now through November 1st, various residential locations will be affected. From November 2nd to November 9th, sidewalk replacements will occur at 1921 Palmer Avenue and the entrance to Citibank. And now in tonight's roundtable, Maura Carlin speaks with Congressman Eliot Engel.
Welcome to the Roundtable. I'm Maura Carlin. Tonight's guest is Congressman Eliot Engel. He represents the 16th Congressional District in the United States House of Representatives, and that includes Larchmont and Mamaroneck. Congressman Engel is the ranking member of the House Committee on Foreign Affairs, I'm going to get that right, and also serves on the Energy and Commerce Committee, including its subcommittees on health and communications and technology. So this is your opportunity to ask Congressman Engel your questions, give him feedback, and find out what's going on in Washington, D.C. You can find our contact information on whatever screen you're watching. So thank you for joining us, Congressman. Before we get to the harder questions, I'm just going to give a quick civics refresher. The United States Congress consists of 2 branches, the House of Representatives and the Senate. There are 2 senators from each state for a total of 100 senators, and there are 435 members of the House of Representatives, and the allocation of that is based on state population. New York State has 27 seats in the House. Yes, all 435 seats are up for election on November 6th, and Congressman Engel is running unopposed. Now, he represents District 16, which includes Larchmont and Mamaroneck, and it's quite large. Almost half of the district's population is in the Bronx, and it also includes the cities of Mount Vernon, Yonkers, New Rochelle, and Rye, as well as Pelham and Scarsdale, in addition to Larchmont and Mamaroneck. So That's a pretty broad and diverse district with differing and perhaps conflicting interests. How do you represent it all?
Well, first let me say it's a great district, and I'm so honored to represent it. I'm so proud to have this district as my district, and I'm pleased to represent it by working hard for all the people. We have district office in Mount Vernon, we have one in Riverdale in the Bronx, we have one in Co-op City. I'm constantly in Westchester because the majority of the district is Westchester. And you find that as you go around to different parts of the district, there are certain problems that are unique to certain places, but basically there are lots of problems or lots of concerns that are similar.
So what would you give as examples of some of those that are similar?
Well, I will tell you, for instance, healthcare. We've seen statistics and surveys that show that healthcare is really the #1 issue for this congressional election. People want to know that healthcare, and I believe that healthcare is a right as American citizens, not a privilege, and that we have an obligation to provide the richest country in the world to provide healthcare. And regardless of whether you're in some of the areas of the district where people are struggling or some of the more affluent areas, healthcare is something that comes up many, many times because it's very personal. And so it's things like that. I have district offices that have helped thousands and thousands of people with problems from all over the district. And I always have said that no problem is too big or too small. If you need help, you come to our office and we'll try to help you as best we can. So it's not really a difficulty. It's very easy to represent everyone in the district, and I'm just very proud of the 16th district, of New York.
What kinds of problems do people come to you with individually, as opposed to, let's say, calling in,
Well, sometimes they come to us with a community concern. For instance, we've had this problem in Westchester with mail delivery. The mail delivery has gotten much worse, and of course, the mail is a federal agency. They don't really operate under us anymore. They're basically a quasi-independent agency, which is part of the problem as far as I'm concerned. But people come with things like that. They don't get their mail, or the mail is found dumped somewhere. We've had problems like that in Larchmont. We've had problems in New Rochelle. We've had problems in many different places. So it's things like that, quality of life issues. And I think a very important role of an elected official is to provide constituent services, which is why I have most of my staff, that is my regular staff, in New York rather than in Washington, because I think people have a right to know that if they have a problem or a concern or get into trouble, that they have a congressman who's willing to help.
One of the criticisms, though, that you faced is that your only office in Westchester is in Mount Vernon, not closer to, more central to the other communities you represent.
Well, Mount Vernon, has some difficulties, and we put the district office where we thought there were people with problems. And we're only a phone call away, and we see everyone, and it's not a problem in terms of getting helping people. We picked again Mount Vernon because it's got some difficulties, and we felt that the people there really needed more help than in any other place in Westchester.
Are there any plans to open an office?
Well,
anywhere else in Westchester?
Yeah, everything is a budget. When I had my campaign headquarters just now was in Mamaroneck. I had to pick one place in the entire district, and I picked Mamaroneck. And it was a great office to do a campaign, and I won out of that office, and George Latimer won out of that office, and it's a great community. So we balanced it off. I don't think that anybody has complained to me that they have been either not getting their problem solved or feeling that nobody cares. I care very much, and I've always made that a cornerstone of my elections. And
you've faced this fall a Democratic primary. You had 3 challengers, which you won handily. But why do you think that you were challenged in the primary this time, and what, if anything, have you learned from it?
Well, I think it's always good to be challenged, frankly. You'd rather not be challenged, frankly, but it's not bad to be challenged because it keeps, first of all, it keeps your political machine well oiled and greased. You cannot take it for granted. Not for one moment do I think this is my seat. It's the people's seat, and I'm honored and privileged to serve in it and to serve the people. we're a free country, and democracy is important. So if someone wants to run against me, I don't hold it personally. There was a time then that I wanted to be first a state assemblyman and then a member of Congress, and I ran and I won. So I'm the last one to say that someone shouldn't run. I mean, I basically think, though, that when an incumbent runs for re-election, the referendum is really on that incumbent's job. Has that person done the job that he or she needs to do? And I think that if the answer is yes, then I don't think it really matters that much who runs against you, because people will be satisfied with the work you've done and will re-elect you. I always have this saying that we have a 2-year term, and I ask the voters to give me a 2-year contract, and at the end of the 2-year term, I run for another 2-year term and ask the voters to renew my contract. So I think it's great. I think it's great to get around. I think it's great to see people. I think it's great for people to know that you're there to help them.
Why do you think that you don't have an opponent for this election for this November?
Well, I won my primary, so I did have 3 opponents in the primary. In the general election, I guess the Republicans made a calculation that they probably weren't going to beat me in this district, and I think they decided to go in a direction perhaps with some other offices that they thought that they could make some inroads in. I like to think that they didn't go against me, because even Republicans realize I'm doing a good job. But I'll leave it for them to say.
Okay, we're going to take actually a quick break, and we'll be right back after this message and continue our discussion with Congressman Eliot Engel.
Do you know how to request our services? Just go to lmctv.org. Under the service banner, click Forms. In our Forms section, you can apply to be a volunteer, learn about membership, learn about corporate underwriting, request a bulletin board, coverage, DVD dubs, equipment, and PSAs.
It's all a click away at lmctv.org.
And we're back with Congressman Engel. And again, this is your chance to speak to him, raise your concerns, share your views. So call and write. You've got the contact information right there on your screen. Okay, so let's get into some of the specific issues facing the country and the community. And one of the things that people around here talk about a lot was the tax law and the elimination of the SALT deduction to state and local taxes. What's going on? Is there any movement to bring back the deduction? Because people here have been hurt by that.
Well, first of all, I voted against the tax bill because of this very issue. What President Trump orchestrated in the Congress, I call it his tax scam, was an absolute disgrace, hurting all the people of Westchester, because we are a high cost of living state, and this county is highly taxed. And what the president has done with the bill is make it impossible to deduct legitimate costs above $10,000, which is not much when you have a home in Westchester, and the cost that you have to
between the mortgage and
Yes.
the school taxes and the state
So I
taxes.
proudly voted against it, and as you know, we're having an election in a couple of weeks, and I think that will be a major issue in the election, because if the Democrats flip the House, first of all, if the Democrats flip the House, I'm slated to become the next chairman of the Foreign Affairs Committee. But one of the things I know we will do if the House is flipped and Democrats take the majority is we will try to repeal the SALT, the president's taxes on homeowners. It's an absolute disgrace, and should never have been done in the first place. The president talks about middle-class tax cuts. This hurts the middle class. The tax cuts went to the top 1% and even higher to very wealthy people. And I just think that the whole thing was a terrible, terrible bill. I voted against it. I spoke against it on the House floor. And it's one of the things I want to try to turn around if we win the House in a couple of weeks.
We have a viewer question. And I'm reading, it said that women's rights are human rights, and you are running on a platform that includes fighting for women and women's health. Why do you think women and women's rights are such a hot topic this election season?
Well, I think we've evolved as a nation I think things that nobody looked at or thought were wrong years ago, we're now looking at things and we're realizing that there were lots of sexist and racist and other things that were done years ago that we've frankly happily moved away from. And I think people are much more sensitive to that. Of course, you had the Kavanaugh issue with Judge Kavanaugh with all the people coming out and talking about him. And you've had this, frankly, with Hollywood and all kinds of other things. I think the public is much more aware of it. And the public should be aware of it. I think things that people didn't look at twice years ago are frankly unacceptable now. The country's changed, and I think in that way it's changed for the better. So I think women's issues are very important. And I think women will decide this election. There are a lot of, across the country, Republican suburban women who are college educated, who have voted Republican for years, are switching this year, and the polls show it. They're going to vote for the Democrats because they're very unhappy with the hard right attack that the president and many in the Republican Party have gone to. And I think that is why women are so prominent, and frankly, I think are going to decide this election.
Okay. You serve on the Foreign Affairs Committee. What does the Foreign Affairs Committee do?
Well, it's just what it sounds like. We take care of the foreign affairs of the United States.
Legislation relating to it.
Yes. Now, the president, of course, is the person who is the main person who conducts things. But what makes our democracy so different than other democracies is that we are a co-equal branch of government. We don't serve on the pleasure of the president. We don't serve to rubber stamp everything the president does. We are an important branch on ourselves. So, for instance, we've voted penalties and sanctions for countries like Iran and Russia and North Korea. These are things that we need to do. And it's one of the reasons that I have had some difficulty with President Trump and what he's done in terms of foreign policy, because we on the Foreign Affairs Committee think that there have been a lot of missteps along the way.
Give me some examples of the missteps. Russia and Putin?
Well, Russia and Putin is the main thing, and that's why it's still being looked at. We still don't know what they talked about at Helsinki. We don't know what Trump and Putin have talked about at Helsinki. We know the Russians interfered with our presidential election in 2016. We don't quite know yet if there was collusion by the Trump campaign, but I think that we will know. I think Mr. Mueller will have an investigation and we'll find out those things.
Do you expect that we will get an answer from the Mueller investigation?
Well, I do. I mean, I don't know the specifics of it, but I think the fact that it's been going on for so many months, that Mr. Mueller seems to be indicting people that are close to the president. I think that he's getting to the bottom line as to what happened. The American public deserves to know, and the president doesn't want anybody to know anything. He wants to just keep the power to himself, and I think that the whole style of governing is not a very good style.
We have a comment from the mayor of the village of Mamaroneck, Tom Murphy. He said that he wants to thank Congressman Engel for working hard to get Mamaroneck meaningful flood relief. He's referring to the Army Corps of Engineers project, which I believe is awaiting the president's signature for funding. Mm-hmm. He says thank you.
I want to thank him. Thank you, Tom. One of the things that I've been concerned about is, of course, the flooding, and the local officials have worked right with me to make sure that the federal government is more responsive. We've worked together as a team, including Tom, myself, and others. And I think it's very, very important. I mean, this is why we have a federal government. We need the help from time to time. And people here are law-abiding and pay their taxes. And when we have problems like flooding or other problems, we need the federal government to step in and help us with it.
What is going on with immigration, DACA reform, And the migrant caravan that the president keeps talking about.
Well, let me say, I think the president takes the wrong attack when he starts talking about immigrants as if they're somehow bad for this country. I'm the grandson of 4 immigrants that came to this country 110 years ago. And the people who want to come for the same reasons that my grandparents and other people's parents or grandparents came, because they wanted a better life for themselves and their families. They escaped persecution, they escaped poverty, that kind of thing. I think the president does a great disservice when he talks about these people as if they're all criminals or somehow ISIS is mixed in with them. It's nonsense. And what happened with the separation of children from their parents is something that just made me ill as the father of 3 children. My children are grown now, but the thought that you could separate children from parents and then we finally bring the children back and the parents have already been deported and we have these children at the borders. Look, we need to have...
Is that part of what Foreign Affairs does?
Well, yeah, we speak out on issues. We pass issues. We push the president to fund the State Department. Because the State Department is diplomacy, and we believe that the Defense Department prepares for war, and the State Department is supposed to do diplomacy to prevent war. And we've had a problem with funding those various programs. I'm a strong supporter of the State of Israel. In the Foreign Affairs Committee, we work very hard to make sure that the bond between the United States and Israel is there, that Israel is replenished with Iron Dome, for instance, during the war, when it was preventing Israeli casualties, and they were running out of money. We appropriated money. We do things such as that. Anything with foreign policy, we are there. Now, there's always a tug of war between any president and any Congress, any president and any Foreign Affairs Committee. I would hope, as the chairman of the Foreign Affairs Committee, to do a lot of oversight into the administration, which is another thing that we do as members of Congress and what we would do on the Foreign Affairs Committee.
Do you think Congress is going to fund a wall?
I hope not. That is the stupidest waste of money I've ever seen. It's nonsense, it's insulting. There are other things we can do and other ways that we can try to fix the problem.
Do you think the border should be more secure in some way?
Look, the border has to be secure. I'm not for no borders, I'm for secure borders. We can't willy-nilly just open up the borders and have everybody run in. But on the other hand, we have to have a little compassion too. And there are reasons why people want to come here. And we need to look at every case and not look at these people as if they're criminals. They're human beings just like us. They deserve dignity. They're coming for the same reasons immigrants have come. I really believe that our nation has been pushed to the top through these past 100 years because of immigrants that have come here. Who comes here? Not lazy people. Lazy people stay home. People come here, they don't speak the language, they learn the language, they help their families, they want a better life for their families, and in doing so, they help the United States because we get the best and the brightest.
We're going to take a quick break there, and when we come back, we'll continue the discussion about specific issues, and also we'll talk Beltway politics.
Did you know that if you missed the last government meeting, you can watch it on our website? Just go to lmctv.org, click on videos, then click on municipal meetings, scroll down to find the meeting you want, or use the search function in the upper right corner and type in the name or date of the meeting. Then watch. You can see the full agenda and jump to a specific agenda item.
It's all a click away at lmctv.org.
Welcome back. Again, your chance to ask questions of Congressman Engel. We're going to talk politics and partisanship and any other issues that come up. You've said that you're part of the anti-Trump agenda, but is there anything that the president has said or done that you do agree with?
Well, I think the president has been a good friend of Israel. I think I do agree with moving the embassy to Jerusalem. I think that Jerusalem has always been the capital of Israel, And in further negotiations later on down the line, we hope, between the Israelis and Palestinians, everything can be negotiated and renegotiated. But I think it was...
You don't think that was poking the Palestinians in
Well,
the eye?
here's what I think. I think that 23 years ago, the Congress voted to move the embassy to Jerusalem. There is a waiver in that bill. Most of these bills have waivers to give the presidents a chance to waive it. Every president since then has waived it. It's been 23 years. It's very frustrating that Congress votes for something. I was part of that 23 years ago. And yet, year after year, nothing's happened. So, yeah, I think it was a good thing to do. I'm not against everything the president does. I just think that the president, you know, we've had the problems now with the bombs, and there are a lot of people out there who are not wrapped too tightly, unfortunately. And I think the president has to be very careful. He can't keep fanning the fires and you know, causing people to think it's okay to hurt other people or threaten other people. The president should be a unifier. I'm not saying that he shouldn't do politics. Every president does politics. But I think the president's got to be a symbol for all Americans, not just for those who voted for him. And I think he's making a terrible mistake.
Do you think he's part of the increase in anti-Semitism?
Well, I'll tell you, I disagree with a lot of what President Trump does, but I don't think he personally is anti-Semitic. But when he says things like in Charlottesville, Virginia, there are good people on both sides, and one of the sides are white supremacists who hate Jews, hate African Americans, hate Latinos, and hate everybody. I think the president shouldn't do that. I think that there's no moral equivalency, and I think the president should have very strongly, you know, condemned what happened. And when he doesn't condemn it, these people think it's okay for them to say and do outrageous things. And that's where I think the president has to be a moral leader in terms of saying that, you know, racism is unacceptable, anti-Semitism is unacceptable, and these people need to be condemned.
What do you think about, particularly in light of the murder of the Saudi Arabian journalist for the Washington Post, of relying on Saudi Arabia for an Israeli-Palestinian peace process?
Well, that's a tough and complicated question. I have hoped, you know, we met the Crown Prince when he came to Washington, a few of us did, and I was impressed with him. What I'm hearing now, of course, is horrific, and it can't be condoned, and there's got to be a strong American response. But Saudi Arabia is an important country, and we need them in many ways to check Iran, which is making all kinds of trouble. And we need to keep moving forward with the Arab countries and Israel to try to find a way to make peace. I think Saudi Arabia could be very helpful if it chooses to do so, but what happened in Turkey was horrific, and there really needs to be a price to pay. We just can't sweep it under the rug.
What kind of sanctions would you recommend against Saudi Arabia?
Well, I think that's something that it's difficult to say. I don't think we should break diplomatic relations. That much I think we shouldn't do. But I think that perhaps there are some sales of arms and things that we were going to do that we should perhaps pull back on now and not be so quick to sell them what they want. I mean, there's got to be some kind of a moral response to them. It's not only, you know, making money by selling them armaments. There's got to be a morality there too. So I think something along those lines, cutting back on some arms sales and things like that. Otherwise,
I'm going to cut you off only because we have a viewer question.
Okay.
More important than my questions.
All right.
What are your thoughts on our president calling himself a nationalist at a recent rally?
It's horrific. It's horrific. He comes out with these statements, and then he pretends that there's nothing wrong with saying a nationalist. I'm a nationalist. He knows darn well that type of talk riles up the extreme right and people who are white supremacists, and it just riles them up. And the president, any president, should be a unifier, not someone who fans the fires.
We've all noticed how hyper-partisan and divided the country is right now. Do you have specific advice on how to pull it back together, how to unify us?
You know, we talk about blue waves and we talk about red waves, and I'm a Democrat, so I hope there's a big blue wave. But, you know, the real wave should be red, white, and blue. We should remember we're all Americans. Our democracy is not perfect, but we should keep striving to make it perfect. And we shouldn't necessarily impugn the motives of people with whom we disagree. I can get in the middle and fight as hard as anyone, and I do. But I think we've got to tone down the rhetoric a little bit, because there are, unfortunately, some people out there who are not stable and look at the rhetoric as a green light to do horrific things like send 10 bombs to ex-presidents and other people.
Is there any more information on where that's coming from?
We haven't, but I'm confident that we'll get to the bottom of it. You know, our country has never really had this kind of political violence. It's happened in other countries, and you don't think that it will ever happen here. And that's why I think it's important that all of us who are elected need to work very hard to ensure that this thing doesn't get out of hand. And frankly, it starts with the President of the United States.
I thought we had one more question from a viewer. Do you have any predictions for November 6th and what's going to happen with Congress?
Well, I'm keeping my fingers crossed. I think the Democrats are going to flip the House and get control of the majority. I think the Senate will be a little harder. I think the Democrats can do it, but I think it's looking more likely that the Republicans might hold their majority by 1 or 2 votes. That's the way it looks right now. But the polls, you know, every day are back and forth. But I do think that if we look at the way elections have happened in the past, when a president is midterm in his first term, his party usually loses several seats, and so we think that the Republicans will lose seats. And frankly, we think the Democrats have a much better program, a much better plan, and we think that what we are putting forward with health care and all the issues we're talking about, we think will resonate with the American people, and we'll have a big blue wave come Election Day.
Do you think the Democrats will move to impeach the president if they take over the House?
I certainly don't think that's what we should do immediately after taking over the House. I think there's a lot more pressing things in the country. I'm not saying we should never do it, but I don't think that should be the major thing we should look at. I went through one impeachment with President Clinton. He was impeached but not convicted. If we go through an impeachment, we'll probably have the same thing, and it'll tear the country apart. I would rather work on more constructive issues. I would rather work on issues that people really care about. So I think that impeachment, I push it to the back. At some point, we'll look at it, but I think right now there are many more pressing things that have to be done, and I think will be done with the Democratic majority in the House.
Okay, we have another viewer question, as I thought. I'm going to read it to you. I feel like tonight is the first time I got to know you. This is coming from the viewer. Will you come to Mamaroneck and Larchmont again outside of your campaign office? Because they want you to come here.
Absolutely. I love this place, and please invite me, and I'll come. I'd love to come.
Okay,
sure.
hope that answers
Call
your
my
question.
district office, and we can make arrangements.
Okay, I hope that answers your question. Someone will call and follow up. Do you tweet?
I tweet. My kids tweet better than me.
Okay.
And that's what you have good office staff for, you know, when you get to be my age. But look, tweeting, this is a new age, and you can't go back to the old age. So you better
So
learn.
you're not against it?
I'm not against it. No, I think it's great in a way. I think my kids can run circles around me. My kids are all in their 20s and 30s. So, and when I don't know what to do, I call them up and ask them, and I get, Dad, we showed that to you the last time. And I always say, yeah, you know, but if I remembered, I wouldn't be asking you again.
Every parent's story. I want to touch a couple more issues before we wrap it up, if they'll let me have the time. Gun laws and gun reform. What do you say to those who are afraid that their right to own, or, you know, a weapon will be taken away?
First of all, and thank you for raising it, I have been a big supporter of sensible gun control. The National Rifle Association has given me an F rating, and I wear it with pride. I think it's disgraceful that we have never in the past several years had a chance to vote on any sensible gun control legislation, it's always blocked by the Republican leadership, and then we wind up voting on a procedure rather than voting on the issue. You see the horrific killings in the schools with these children. I mean, how many more killings do we have to have before we'll wake up? No one's trying to take guns away from people. As far as I'm concerned, the Second Amendment is there. If someone has a legitimate reason for a gun, if they're a hunter, if they need it for protection, no one's trying to take it away. We just want to make sure that people with mental illness don't get guns, and that there's just sensible gun control legislation put out there.
What do you consider sensible gun legislation?
Well, if you're on a no-fly list, you can buy a gun. Well, so we always say no fly, no buy. If you're on a no-fly list, because there are certain things with your past, whether it's terrorism or anything else, it makes no sense for you to stop in and buy and be able to buy a gun. There are things checks. There are background checks. There are all kinds of sensible things. No one's trying to take guns away from anybody. But I think what's happened in this country is it's gotten too far to one direction. You know, when you have that horrific, all these horrific killings, but how many people died in a matter of seconds in Las Vegas? Why does somebody need an automatic weapon or semi-automatic weapon? These are weapons of war. These are not weapons for protection. There's no reason for it. And I think that we are ripping at our society by doing nothing about it, and the Republicans won't even allow a vote on the floor. And so I think that's going to change when the Democrats get the majority.
One more issue, which is really three issues: Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. Where do things stand? Are they is the president really going to try to cut those?
Well, we're going to fight him if he wants to cut it. I mean, those things are sacrosanct. You know, I have a bill that would mandate that seniors' COLA in Social Security every year would be a minimum of 3%, because prices go up and checks remain the same, and people find it very, very difficult. You know, we always hear lectures from the president and his people about deficits. You know, that we can't have deficits. So meanwhile, he passes, as you mentioned a few minutes ago, he passes the tax scam, which hurts Westchester, and blows a hole in the deficit. Because what did he do? He took the tax breaks mainly for the very wealthy, and the middle class are paying for it, and blows a hole in the deficit. So I don't want any lectures from the president about fiscal responsibility. That was totally irresponsible.
Okay, we're going to leave it there. I want to thank you so much for joining us. Obviously, our viewers, we're glad to have you here, and you have an open invitation. We'd like to thank all of you for watching the Roundtable. Next week, we're actually going to tackle the hyper-partisanship and polarization in our communities, families, and among our friends with two guests from Better Angels. Please join us then. And for now, stay tuned for more of The Local Live.
Thank you.
I watch The Local Live so that I can ask questions about my community.
Caller, go ahead.
I watch so I can find out what's going on the go.
Because I catch up at any time, from anywhere, and see any show. Shh!
You tell us, we air it. This is The Local Live.
Kiddies, their friends, and families gathered in Larchmont for hot dogs, music, and more at the Ragamuffin Parade this past Saturday. The fire department was also on hand, reminding everyone to be safe this Halloween.
To LMC TV's broadcast of the Ragamuffin Parade, October 20th, 2018. How many years have you been doing the Ragamuffin?
It's probably been about 20 years. It started as a pretty small event, really, at the beginning, and it's grown every year since.
Absolutely. This will be my fourth event, the Ragamuffin Parade with the village. A lot of work went in cooperation with all the departments in the village to put this together, and it's down to a science now. So it'll be a great day. We finally have the weather on our side, and it'll be nice to see all the kids come out in their costumes.
just want people to be safe and make sure they change the batteries in their smoke detector and practice a few exit drills in the home, so God forbid you happen to have a fire, you know how to get out safely. That's basically it. We want everyone to keep safe and enjoy themselves.
Joyce Callahan from the Recreation Department, who organized this whole event. I just want to say hello to her real fast. Joyce, how did it turn out for you today?
We had a great turnout and the weather held, so we're having a really good time. This is Cindy Habick, a very long-time resident who no longer has kids at the parade, but still turns out. Yeah.
Event with Mama Mouse. What was the best part of your day?
Just seeing everybody, all the great costumes, and just everybody smiling. It's a great day outside.
And how about yourself?
All the costumes, all the kids, the trick-or-treating.
You guys have fun out here?
Yes.
Did you get some candy?
Yes.
How would you like the parade?
I like to just dance and party with my friends.
Moral Cathwari and the community braved the cold and wind for this year's Spooktacular.
It's a very spooky day here at Mamaroneck Avenue today, where hundreds of local kids gathered together and dressed as creatures and goblins for Mamaroneck's annual Spooktacular Parade. Local residents strolled down Mamaroneck Avenue in costume to ring in the town's Spooktacular. Kids and parents dressed as their favorite characters to begin Halloween celebrations. The Mamaroneck PBA was also on site to hand out candy.
We're the Mamaroneck Village PBA. Every year since they've been doing this, we hand out Halloween candy to the kids. It's kind of our way of giving back to the community.
Wonderful. I think it's amazing what they do in this town. And I mean, look at everybody. Everybody's happy. They have Cookie Monster and Elmo. And my son's dressed like a dragon. And then we're going to go to the event and we're going to get Sal's Pizza.
Happy Halloween.
Oh, are you excited to get candy this Halloween?
Yeah.
What's your favorite candy?
This one. I'm excited that all the Halloweens are in this world, and I like the Halloween.
Everybody, coming out on this cold day, awesome, showing the Halloween spirit.
Down by the harbor, village goers could get spooked in the haunted house, and there are many food trucks, activities, and goodies for children to enjoy. We wish you a very happy Halloween from us at LMC TV. For the Local Live, I'm Eliot Engel.
And here's what's happening around town. In its 19th year, this is the last weekend to check out Scared by the Sound Haunted House at Rye Playland. The 12,000 square foot haunted house and cemetery will be open on Friday, October 26th from 8 to 11 p.m., Saturday, October 27th from 7 to 11 p.m., and Sunday, October 28th from 7 to 10 p.m. Fall is here, which means flu season is in full swing. The Westchester County Health Department is offering free flu shots to residents ages 3 and up on Tuesday, October 30th from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. at the County Clinic located at 134 Court Street in White Plains. Visit the County Health Department website on your screen now to make an appointment and for more information. Hudson Valley Restaurant Week is back with 8 restaurants in Larchmont and Mamaroneck participating. For more information and to reserve a table, visit valleytable.com/HVRW. Registration is underway for the Village of Mamaroneck Recreation Department's 52nd Annual Turkey Tot and Gobbler Race. The popular event will take place on Sunday, November 18th, with the 1 mile gobbler race starting at 9 a.m. and the 5K turkey trot for ages 12 and up kicking off at 10 o'clock. Visit the link on your screen now for more information and to register online. With Election Day approaching, there will be extended office hours to obtain absentee ballots and application at the Westchester County Board of Elections in White Plains. Offices will be open 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. on Saturday, October 27th, Tuesday, October 30th, and Thursday, November 1st until 8 p.m., and Saturday, November 3rd from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Visit the Westchester County Government website on your screen now to download forms for more information. On October 13th, the Village of Mamaroneck Fire Department was at Harbor Island Park to not only show off its equipment, but to promote fire safety.
Welcome to the Village of Mamaroneck Fire Department VMFD Day. We are down here at the Harbor Island on our annual day to give the public an idea of what it is that the Village of Mamaroneck Fire Department is responsible for. We do serve some different functions. Ultimately, the job is to protect the public and ensure the public safety, and we do that by a vast amount of training, a lot of teamwork, and communicating with each other, and we're constantly looking to achieve that and work towards that.
Hi everyone, I just wanted to say how honored I am to be here today. And as you can see over here, there's a whole bunch of fire trucks behind me, a whole bunch of kids. I'm really happy today. I've learned a whole bunch of stuff being here today, how they use all these gadgets. It's absolutely amazing.
Hi there, we're really excited to be here today and seeing all the trucks and learning more about fire prevention.
Fighter.
Thank you, Mamaroneck Fire Department. Thank you, firemen. We really appreciate this. This is an awesome day.
Memorial Park was Foodie Central last Saturday as the second annual Fall Food Truck Festival rolled into town.
Welcome, I'm Maria Gallagher. I'm with the Town of Mamaroneck Recreation Department, and we're here today at our second annual Fall Food Truck Festival.
Hi guys, it's Sydney O here with the Local Live. We are at the Abee's Food Truck. They actually are Westchester's best new food truck of 2018. They just started in 2017 and actually sold their first pizza at the Harbor Island Park.
Hi.
When did you start your food truck?
We've been open about a little over a year now. So we have our food truck, and then this is our trailer. So we have two trucks out after a year.
There's so many food trucks this year, so many events. Our recreation staff and fire department and all of our staff have worked so hard to put this event on, and we're thrilled with the weather and how it's turned out. In fact, they even ordered a nice day.
We got LMC TV here with their mobile green screen, letting you take some fun photos. I mean, it's really a great event.
I mean, all the food trucks were to die for, from the pizza, the lobster, they actually ran out. The crepes to die for, they have a pumpkin patch, games for the children. So it was a great event. I look forward to you guys checking it out on Local Live. This is Sydney out.
Thanks, Sydney. This week in sports, the Rye-Neck boys soccer team put the finishing touches on a quarterfinal win by keeping it in the family in the LMC Varsity Sports Play of the Week.
Sent across, Martabano has it taken away, but Ishihara has to settle it back down. Ishihara trying to come through, centers, shot scored! It's the brotherly love. Marcel Ishihara to Hideo. It's 2-0 Rye-Neck.
Awesome job, guys. The fundraising drive around the mural in our town center studio continues. We plan to use the fund towards a production van, which gives LMC TV the ability to broadcast community events live on location and more. Thank you to all who have donated. The mural is still missing some pieces, Individuals as well as groups can help by visiting lmctv.org/communitymural.
TV would like to thank local artist Jamie Lynn at Made, an art studio in Mamaroneck, for creating a beautiful community mural. Place your piece in this mural by contributing to LMC TV, the community connection that brings you local board meetings, varsity sports, and your local news. Please contribute to this community mural by going to our website and clicking on Donate. Each contributor will be listed next to the mural when it is complete. We value your appreciation of what we do. Become a single donor or as a group, go to lmctv.org. The only piece missing is you.
You can now reserve time and space to record your very own podcast. LMC TV staff just launched their own LMC Cast. Have a listen at lmctv.org/podcasts. You can also learn how we can help you produce your own show. Thank you to all who have expressed interest in this exciting and growing medium.
This is DeMonica Diablo, and you're watching Terra TV on LMC TV.
We love hearing from our viewers. Please send all emails, comments, inquiries, news tips, pictures, and videos to the local live at lmctv.org. Remember, if you missed Thursday's live broadcast, you can catch replays of the local live twice a day on this channel and find story clips on our YouTube channel. Be sure to also follow us on Facebook, where we stream live every Thursday night, and keep an eye out for some unique content. Thank you for watching the Local Live. I'm Tanisha Blanche, and we'll see you next week. Have a great and safe Halloween, and good night.